Hey everyone, I'm going to be showing you how I created this picture using Medibang Paint Pro. I've got the screen record the hair, but let me know if you would like any types of hair tutorials. I started off on a new layer using the watercolor brush on a lower opacity on size 48 to fill the brows and create an ombre effect. Also, I apologize if the audio sounds weird. I'm actually recording this in the car. So yeah, you just clean it up. And this is where I get rid of the whole eyebrow. And then I start focusing on one. In this part I just create different types of details in the eyebrow with the pen sharp brush. Just messing around with the colors. I use different types of shades of brown just to give it more detail. So on this part I merge the layers and I copy and paste the eyebrow, flip it horizontally so that the two eyebrows are symmetrical, and then I just kind of move it into place. Yeah, I also tend to merge the layers a lot, so I'm left with minimal layers to work with. It could get quite confusing if you have loads of different layers and you don't know. So on this part I merge the layers together so that one layer is just the eyebrows, and I press the select the protect alpha option and then get the color black with the airbrush brush on a low opacity to shade the very ends of the eyebrow where the hair is to create a shadow. Then moving on to the eyes. For the eyes I started on the same layer, but you could go onto a different layer if you want to, with color black with the pen sharp brush on 100% opacity to outline the eyes, and then you just clean up the edges if you need to. For the eyelashes, I usually use a separate layer to create the eyelash strokes. I switch up the opacity and the size depending on how full I want the lashes. Doing it on a separate layer is really helpful, as you could erase the part of the eyelashes that you don't need without affecting the outline of the eye. You'll see me do this after I finish doing the eyelashes. And this is what I mean by erasing it without it affecting the outline. It just makes it a lot easier than doing it on the same layer, and then you have to kind of do it neatly. You have to erase neatly and everything, so yeah. Then usually with the layer above, which is most of the time it's the layer that I've done the lashes, I use the black to create the pupil by making the circle a bit smaller and then filling that in. It's ideal not to move the circle around too much, as it would be quite hard to find the middle of the eye again. After this, go back onto the layer with the brown eye colour and fill it in, fill in the circle. I then used the Protect Alpha option and got the colour black to shade the top of the eye. It makes it look a bit more realistic when you add some shadings. Then I messed around with some colours and created a nice gradient type of thing within the eye. I used the watercolour brush on a low opacity to do this. On a separate layer, fill the eye with white. I usually do it with a pencil brush, and select the Protect Alpha. So you can mess around with the greys and the pinks to make shades in the eye if you like to. It just makes it look a bit more realistic. I do this on a low opacity with the watercolour brush. When I'm feeling lazy, I like to do just one of the eyes, then copy and paste it and flip it horizontally. But this isn't always the best way, because it could look like the person's eyes are going out two different directions. If you're going to do that, it's best to do it with just the outline and the lashes, not with the eyes filled, because the eyes they're not naturally symmetrical. To create the shiny look on the eye, I use the airbrush brush on a low opacity and the colour white, but you can mess around with the sizing just to create different variations. Next, we move on to the layer I like to call outline, which is mainly the outline of the nose and the lips. To do this, I get a dark colour from the skin, which is usually by the cheekbone, or just underneath the neck bit, so the dark part. So I get the darker colour with the pen stripe brush, follow the natural lines and creases of the eyes and nose, of the lips and nose, sorry. The opacity, it could vary, but I don't like to make the lines under the eyes too harsh, so I usually lower the opacity for that. Only when it gets to the nostrils, I like to do it on 100% opacity. copy and pasting is also a good way to keep things looking symmetrical. But because the face isn't naturally symmetrical, you might just want to move it slightly in certain areas, like you might want to tilt it, or, you know. Yeah. After the lips are outlined and everything's cleaned up, I like to merge the layers with the eyes and the lips and nose. And you can see what I mean by the by the eyes looking like they're go in two different directions. That's why it's not always the best way. It was just easy to get away with it with this picture because her hair is going right in front of her face. So yeah, to fill the lips, I used the eyedropper tool to get the colour of the lips and started filling it with the pencil on 100% opacity. I'm not too great at the lips because I find the detailing really hard. That's just me. If you guys have any advice for that, please let me know. Yeah. because she has a little bit of teeth showing, I fill it with I go onto a new layer and fill it with white color and then shade grey on the top part on a low opacity. And then I like to merge the layers with that. And then select the Protect Alpha option above the layers to shade the lips with different tones of the original color, and I like to create some shine on the lips by going further up on the color wheel until it gets to the white color on a low opacity. And now onto the skin. I pick up the color of a skin tone I would like to use with the eyedropper tool and outline the face with the pen sharp brush on 100% opacity. And then I fill it with the pencil brush. This is a method I recently started using. It's quicker and easier than the more realistic method of shading, but it's not as realistic. To get the shading, select the Protect Alpha option above the layers and use different shades of brown to create a shadow in the natural places where the shadow would fall, like the cheekbones, under the lip, around the nose and on the forehead. I use the watercolor brush on a low opacity, but you could also use the airbrush to create a more flawless skin look. It's basically how you would do a smoky eye. So you start off with the lighter color on the outside and then you gradually build it up. Use lighter shades of brown to create highlights on the T-zone of the face. I also like to pick a shade of pink or coral to create a blushed cheek look. To do the neck on a separate layer, create the outline with the pencil brush. You could make the bottom more neat if you would like, but in this case I didn't have to make it neat because she's going to be wearing a shirt that's going to cover it. Shade it in the same way as you shaded the face. In the natural places it would have shadow, so yeah, just shade it with the airbrush or the watercolor brush, whichever one you used. And just try to make it look as even as possible. On a separate layer, I done the shirt. I used a black pencil to do the black outline and tidied it up a bit with the eraser. There's no shading needed for this because it's just black. For the yellow part of the shirt, on a separate layer again, go along the same line and just fill it in. I chose to do the shading with a darker shade of yellow with the water brush on a low opacity. Kind of winged it on the shading, so yeah. After the shirt is done, you could just merge the layers. chose to fill this part of the hair which was missing with the pen sharp brush, and then I polished up the skin a bit with a darker shade to make her skin a bit darker. I also forgot to do the nose ring, so if I didn't mention that already, please forgive me. I added my Instagram name too, so check out my page at JBWArt and follow if you like my content. And that's my picture done. I hope you enjoyed and thank you for watching.